Again, I'll reference the Indiana University Bloomington and their Resource Center for Autism. And they provide a list of students with theory of mind deficits may also struggle with explaining their own behaviors. So how many times in a classroom does a child act out or do something and our first response as teachers is to say, "Why did you do that?" Right? If you don't have a good theory of mind, you're not able to really introspectively review why you did something based on your surroundings and explain that. So explaining their behaviors may be something that you see in your classrooms, and that may be an indication of poor theory of mind skill. Second, Bloomington points out they may have difficulty understanding their emotions, and this is something that I think we're pretty used to in working with individuals with autism, that they struggle to understand others' emotions, but honestly, they struggle to understand their own emotions. We have physiological and biological responses to our emotions that are happening, but that doesn't necessarily mean those individuals have the awareness to know what's causing those physiological, biological responses, like laughing or crying or accelerated heart rate, right? They might not really recognize their own emotions. Being able to predict the behaviors or emotional states of others. So recognizing that when I do this, it's probably going to make you respond this way, right? I won't say often, but it stands out when I hear parents or teachers express to me, he's just trying to control the situation, or he's just manipulating the other students, or trying to manipulate me or the situation. And that capacity to manipulate is really a pretty high order level of theory of mind thinking, because you have to be able to recognize your own response and how it affects others' response and what others are thinking and how what you can do can change what they're thinking. I mean, it's this very complex back and forth of recognizing your thinking and their thinking, their thinking, your thinking, and the effects that go on between the two. And I will just tell you honestly, our children with autism spectrum disorder, for the most part, are not good at this, right? They are not trying to manipulate the situation because they don't have the capacity to do that, really. So this idea of being able to predict the behaviors or emotional states of others is one manifestation of poor theory of mind. Being able to understand the perspectives of others, knowing that others think differently, and we can even break that understanding perspectives of others into other components. Their visual perspective, that, you know, what I am looking at is not the same thing as you. You're looking at something behind me, right? That's visual perspective taking, all right? That's part of theory of mind. Emotional perspective taking. There are different components of perspective taking that go beyond just being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes from their perspective. Understanding your context, the history. So my history and my experiences are very different from your history and your experiences. So it wouldn't make sense for me to start talking about something from my childhood growing up in Fayetteville, Arkansas, if you grew up in, northern Alaska. They probably are not anywhere the same in those experiences. So understanding perspective of others is one of those areas that students with poor theory of mind struggle in. Inferring the intentions of others, making inferences based on basic information and taking the extra step to infer that it means such and such, that's tricky. And so when a student, I'll say this, our children with autism oftentimes are the victims of bullying or get taken advantage of fairly easily because they have a really hard time reading intentions from others. So if someone says, go pull the fire alarm, and Joey goes and pulls the fire alarm, he did not catch the inferring intention of the person that set him up to just create a big disturbance in the school and probably to get in trouble. So inferring intentions of others is difficulty that is resulting from poor theory of mind. Understanding that behavior impacts how others think or feel, right? Understanding that when I look at somebody like this, right, that impacts that person who emotionally might go, oh, why is she thinking that of me, right? So my behavior impacts how others think and feel. And they have difficulty differentiating fact from fiction, right? So what they see in the cartoons where, Wile E. Coyote gets smashed over and over again, and then he pops up and, automatically he's just fine, right? That difficulty differentiating that when a boulder falls on your head, you're not actually able to just pop up and be just fine. That's a pretty obvious example of that. But reading fiction and nonfiction at the higher levels, even in your literature classes in high school, might still be a little bit difficult for our children.